this is a question open to, I think, for the architects. When deciding on the facade, what are some of your considerations and concerns that impact your decision? Means you are looking for the aesthetics or looking for the longevity of the performance of the facade system that you are using.
So, as an architect, of course, I think a lot depends on, to begin with, on the project type.
Yes.
A lot depends on the geography where the project is located. But I think you have to find this balance between performance and aesthetics. I think the days are gone where purely aesthetics sort of took the top rung, or for that matter, performance. I think also what's happening is that, I think the environmental issues have also become important. So if the facade, which is an important part of that whole criteria, is to satisfy those norms, that becomes another important criteria also. So I think it's a balance between aesthetics and performance that you need to really balance today.
I feel as architects, we are very privileged that we are really artists of the city. So the facades that we create eventually determine the look of the whole city. So whether we are designing a home or an institution or a colony, we are basically being part of an existing piece of art, or we are adding a new dimension to it. So for me, there are three things which are very important personally. I always start with context. So what is it that the urban context demands? And a lot of architects have to choose between blending into the context, so sur mein sur milaye, or being radically sort of in contrast. So you create something very modern in a context which is very traditional. I lean towards being harmonious with the context, though there's nothing wrong with being opposed to it either. So for me, that's the first decision. The second decision is sustainability. I think we're all tired of seeing thin skin facades, which are just glass or stone or whatever. So I like double skin facades personally, so I lean towards those. I believe those are more sustainable. And the third thing is technology that we're going to eventually use to deliver that facade. So that's the three levels in which I sort of determine my facade.
What I'm looking for is the elevation should be such attractive that once you see, you get attracted to the building. You want to come inside the building, have a look of that. So the facade should be very attractive, and the other thing is it should be economical. Being a builder, we should be looking for the economy also. And the foremost thing we are looking for is energy conservation. Right now we are looking for the glass facade is there, we are looking for the U values and all that, so that the energy conservation is there. So these three things I am looking for. Thank you.
The first thing, if you are an architect, you look forward is aesthetics. Whether whatever we're designing, is it gelling well with the context, or does it need to stand out in contrast to it? The performance of the building, it has to be taken care of. Every building is like living organism. It has to sustain a long period, and it has to perform on the multiple bases, whether it's suitable for that climate, whether it gives you adequate comfort for the occupants in terms of daylighting, glare, whether it respects the pollution which is out there. Can it cut it down for the building interiors? We are living in a city and currently we all are facing this in our projects being shut down, living people all wearing masks all the time, not just because of the COVID, but even before that, 2-3 years before that, we have been wearing masks during the season. So how do we design our buildings? How do we design our facades which kind of address it? So those are many issues that we have to.
From the contracting point of view, the basic executive. the option goes across the availability of the product and the fixing methodology. The hindrances that we face day in and day out is the basic intent of the fixing methodology and the termination details with regard to the aesthetic. Surely architects' role, because they see from the 0 point of origin, we deliver to the 100 point of origin. What they have seen in the assumptions, getting fixed to actual level is what our challenges are. We do come across the situation where we really have to convince whether it is possible or not possible. Okay. With regard to all the parameters that actually exist. So there's a different ball game.
Above all, I would like to add one more thing into the discussion. Whatever facade has been designed should have been able to clean the facade, because people design a facade, at later stage the cleaning system fails. There are such pointing out elements that come out. It should be there. Sorry for that point, sir, but it has to be kept in mind. Thank you very much, sir. The facade is the most exposed to weather changes, pollution and other environmental hazards. But at the same time, they are the first impression that anyone gets. So it has to look beautiful and inviting. How do you balance beauty and performance? Do you think the current facade options deliver both performances?
You see, the thing about beauty is that I think it's something that is very subjective. Something that you find very attractive, the other person may not find that attractive. But I think the important thing then is that whatever the material might be, it might be a very simple material, it might be stone, it may be glass. You need to use it appropriately. And I think one of the points you just mentioned was that finally, how do you clean that facade?
Yeah, definitely.
So that's what will go a long way in actually enabling that the facade remains the way it was designed.
Yes.
If you do a facade which one is not able to clean for whatever reason, it may look great on day one, but very soon it will start, it will deteriorate. But I think today also what's happening is that whatever the facade system might be, whether it's glass, there are a lot of artificial cladding materials which are coming in. One of the main things that these new materials are looking at is that how these materials can really withstand the elements. In a place like Delhi and most of the north of India, it's not only the dust, but it's also this huge temperature variation that we have from 2 degrees to 50 degrees, which we need to sort of tackle also. So I think that the good thing is that I think some of the newer facade systems acknowledge this problem and are addressing this problem.
See, if you look at buildings, the outer skin, the vessel really began purely on performance as a shelter from the elements. And if you see historically, openings used to be less than 1% because we didn't know how to create openings. And then from maybe 1% openings, today people have glass buildings which are 100% open. So it's been a huge transition. We must first define what is performance. For somebody, performance is shelter. So when you look at houses in Delhi, many of them are not plastered when you look at these unauthorized colonies. For that person, the facade is still a luxury that he can't afford, so it's basically an envelope. Whereas we often find nowadays builder apartments being made and multi-storied buildings being made with superfluous design elements added to it in the crown or in the facade, which actually have no performance basis except that they should look different or they should attract. So honestly, to me, it's very important that we define performance before we start. And for good architecture, we must drop what is superfluous. So then, after having defined that cleanability, for instance, could be a constraint as a performance, or we are in a COVID hospital right now, where the simple performance criteria is how quickly can you create that envelope. Now, within that constraint of space and dry construction and being able to do it in a factory environment, I need to create a facade that is also pleasing. So therefore, the performance parameter completely shifts. So I think fundamentally as architects, all of us, as we are growing and doing a more varied nature of work, the word performance changes from project to project. And then once we've defined performance, then we choose the right technology, which is quick to make, which is cost effective, as somebody said, and then sustainable, etc. So it goes like that.
I will be talking about the high-rise buildings. If you go in for high-rise building, multi-story high-rise building, when in case of facade, we do not go in for plaster. We try to complete it by the RCC member and directly paint it. So paint is a durable item which can be cleaned and can be maintained. And the aesthetic is also good. But in case of commercial, the glass facade for the high-rise buildings is very much in, and there is a good U value. The air conditioning is also improved when you have a performance glass on the building, and it is also, it can be cleaned, so the dust and all that things doesn't matter to the glass building.
Well, see, we are talking about the future now.
Yes.
Future of the facades. These are all the issues which I believe has always been there. Ever since I believe the architects have been practicing, the performance, the aesthetics. But I believe for the future, we also have to look into the responsibility of the facade. Responsibility in sense, probably one part of it is performance, which is energy generation. Now we are looking at, like sir said, more and more buildings are coming up with high rise. So the roof areas are becoming shorter and the facade areas are becoming more. So the facades can probably take up some responsibility of catering to that dire need of, generating energy, making our nation more carbon neutral or, reducing our carbon emissions. So probably that is one technology
so you are
that
basically saying introduce solar panels into the facade.
Absolutely.
To create energy from the facade, which is the most exposed area on the surface.
It's quite logical, I believe.
Definitely.
With regard to whatever has been said, we have experienced both the things while executing this. Telangana Police Headquarters, Hyderabad, vertical solar panels. We are the first to install that.
Definitely.
Good. So, first time the solar panels have been installed onto the vertical space area, not onto the roof. That too into an L shape. The panel is a BIPV panel and it is getting energized.
Can I ask you something for the benefit of everybody sitting
Yeah.
over here? What was the cost difference? Because many of us would like to know what was the cost difference between a normal facade and a solar panel facade. I'm sorry for extending the time. Sorry.
It was around 35% higher.
35% higher.
But
regeneration time is how much?
Regeneration-
Of the money.
Sorry?
Of the money. How much time you get it back?
I believe some 4 long years.
So, as everybody can see, if you use solar panels in facade, one thing coming out of the discussion, that in 4 years, you will get the money back, and after that, your facade is free. Whereas, if you are using a glass panel, the glass panel will remain as it is, no generation of money. Maybe some people from MEP consultant, they will come up with an MEP point of view to that, but I'm totally saying on the facade because this discussion is on facade.
We have just executed Asia's biggest hospital, Mata Amrita Nanda in Faridabad.
Yeah.
4 lakh square feet of porcelain tile in the exterior surface. It's the first time because normally porcelain tile is getting used in the interior lobbies or something like that. But building of around 75 meters high, traveling in and out, entire hospital building, 40,000 square meter installed area, was a big challenge because to accommodate a porcelain tile in the exterior surface without having any kind of clipping arrangement, and that too facade testing parameters at around 2.7 kPa and getting it tested at a Singapore laboratory and through was a big challenge. The provision, when it was offered to us, we were quite reluctant about whether it should be installed or not, because 4 lakh square feet, the building under construction, going by the means of adhesive strength, was a big challenge. But then developing a sense of technology that it would sustain for at least 50 long years and guaranteeing it to withstand the wind pressure of around 2.7 kp and external abrupt temperature, as rightly said by Sir, was another challenge. But it was all an R&D procedure which came into a contractor's kitty, because previously it was not addressed into that particular manner. Surely an experience of a contractor needs to be taken care across.
So one question coming out of that, how did you face the time duration being reduced? Installation, your porcelain tiles vis-a-vis stone facade, had it been a stone facade, dry cladding?
Very true, it has been reduced. I would like to add on, we are the contractor on board for the new Central Vista stone cladding works, the Parliament building. Doing 90 mm stone cladding octagonal columns, GFRC Jali 150 mm thick. Entire Central Vista belongs to the stone cladding works in and out. We are doing there also, but the porcelain tile happens to, once you learn the techniques, the things are quite easier. Things are good at that end. The deliverables of the product and the nature of the product, how it would be delivering, I believe it would be more preferred from the manufacturer's end. But with regard to the installation technology, what we have done, and we have been offered many jobs across the country.
Thank you, Mr. Sandeep, for that. And one more thing coming out of that discussion, dry stone cladding versus porcelain tiles gives you a better performance, timeline reduced. Many owners sitting over here, they can know that it will take lesser time in installation. Performance-wise, Mr. Sandeep has rightly said, there was no difference in a stone cladding look and am I right? Stone cladding and a porcelain tile installed faster and giving a same performance as a stone cladding. Sir, what is one or more thing that the existing facade system are being using and you want to remove it from there and bring something which is not being used at this point of time? Something that is presently that we are using glass, ACP or whatever. Means something that you want to remove and bring something from the past that you were using or...
See, one of the things that you mentioned was that I think, stone has been used, for many centuries on facade.
Yes, sir.
And the reason why I think the great thing about stone is that, the texture of stone is so unique. Every stone is different. So, you don't get a sort of a very monotonous look on the facade. But stone, as we all know, does have certain drawbacks, I think you just now mentioned about stone and porcelain, dry cladding and porcelain tiles. I think the big difference is that a lot of the tiles that are available today are double skin tiles with an air gap actually. So the great thing about that is that you get the same aesthetic, but you also now get a much better insulating factor on using that material. So I think the advantage of using that, where you can sort of get the same aesthetic but a better performance, is definitely something that I think will make sure that this material will sort of be used much more widely in the future.
So I want to ensure that we move to dry facades and completely do away with wet facades. I feel that if we as an industry move towards dry facades, then our environment will be saved from a lot of dust which gets created during wet facade work.
And lesser NGT bands.
And lesser NGT bands. So I think if we can take this pledge that we'll create a city which only does dry cladding and dry facades, we can be saved from a lot of trouble. That's one thing. The other thing, a material which was very popular earlier and now does not find so much encouragement, is exposed brick and terracotta. And I believe that as a material, the color, it is very close to nature and it's very close to our heart. So in the dry cladding form, I would like to see it being used more and more. And I really believe the story about energy generating facades is a very beautiful story. And Elon Musk has come up with roof tiles which can generate, so maybe terracotta tiles which can generate energy.
We keep on talking about energy generating facades, but energy generation becomes important, as I said, in certain geographies. I still remember, I think another important thing that you can control with the facade is the light and the quality of light also.
Definitely.
And many, many years ago, this Arab Institute building was done in Paris, where where the facade was made up of a number, it was almost like lenses on a camera. So at different times of the day, you could actually control the amount of light that goes in. So I think that will also be relevant. It's not only energy, but I think we have to start looking at some of these other factors like daylighting, the natural light, how do you control that, using the facade as an instrument to control that.
Sir has rightly pointed that we should be avoiding the wet cladding, and even in the dry cladding also we should be avoiding that individual clamping of each stone or tile. We can go in for the framework on the wall and then slide it on the tiles in it or stone in it. So that can make it dry cladding more safer. The stone cannot fall.
So that means you are saying it should be pre-cut from the factory, cut to size, coming to on-site, no cutting on site, and it's just a knockdown condition coming to site and installing.
You can just slide it down on the side. You can make a framework on the facade, aluminum framework, and you can slide it on the thing. So it is sturdy.
The system of installation should be neater and cleaner.
Dry cladding should be neater. This thing takes time also, and this is not safe. The clamps can be out, single stone clamp, and it can hurt someone which is passing by. So that is a more ideal thing, I think.
I think few things which I would like to avoid now in future would be something like thoughtless use of glass everywhere in facades. All buildings completely cladded with glass, irrespective of what orientation it is facing, and like that. Things probably that I would like in future is having double facades, like Sir earlier said, with its high performance. But if we talk about material, I think porcelain is a great material. Stone has always been great. But beyond that, I think for the future, I would like materials that come up which have more recycled content, where if probably we can try to solve today's problem with our future buildings, material that probably is made of construction demolition waste, probably tiles which have the 80-90% content of the waste being reused, and probably a skin onto it for the aesthetic purpose. It's something we can develop. Elon Musk has already, like Sir said, has developed the roofing system which solves one of our problem of generating more electricity at a lower cost. So if we can come up with a facade solution which not only does better for the future but also solves our today's problem, and probably what in future we will be addressing of more and more construction and demolition waste being generated.
Sir, the question asked by recently in Central Vista, 19 stone cladding is there. They have gone for an undercut principle of stone anchoring. No clamps, nothing as that. The principal question that was asked to us कि एक stone निकालना है बीच में से टूट जाएगा कैसे लगेगा? All the stones are fixed onto the aluminum channel, and 90 mm thick sandstone by the means of a runner system where it can glide as easy as possible was a challenge, because developing an extrusion with a dead load carrying capacity. Yeah, but we managed it, and surely the mock-ups are through and the work will be started on. With regard to the facade cleaning system and double skin facade, we experienced, all I am talking with regard to the executions that we have done in the past. We have done a project in Lucknow where the double skin facade was there. So you are aware of it.
How you see the evolution of facade, means from where it started and where it is moving ahead, and what is the future material that you see?
See, as I said, that I think the future materials will actually evolve from the technology of being able to, as I think Gurmeet or somebody also pointed out, to be able to install these facades very quickly. Yes. As projects become more complex and obviously more expensive, the time period is becoming more and more important. So I think materials that have the qualities of some of the our older materials like stone, where you have the colors, you have the textures, color fasteners, but systems that allow you to actually install these very quickly. I think that's where the future is, because I think technology will drive these facade solutions to solutions that you can probably install in half the time that facades today are being used to install. So I think the future really lies in finding solutions that satisfy those norms.
For me, the evolution of facades from 1% openings to 100% openings has been one of greed. And you want more and more glass for many reasons. One of them is that it's actually the simplest material to execute and install. Also, the industry lobby, which is pushing it, is a very powerful lobby. But if you were to set that aside, having already said that we want dry construction, having already said that we want double skin construction, I feel the most important thing for me going into the future is for facades to be sustainable, in that they must in some way lower the heat load that comes from the envelope and also look interesting. A lot of people have tried green terraces and a lot of greenery. Now in 3D renderings they look very beautiful. But eventually when those buildings are made, I find that hardly 1/10 of the buildings actually have the level of greenery that an architect desires. So I don't know if it's the architect's shortcoming or it is the entire ecosystem which has to grow. So since we are all sitting here, architects as well as people who make it happen, to me, let's make facades possible which are as green on the elevation as possible. Because you see, no architect should also have the right to permanently decide what you are going to look at. Ideally, the best elevation is the tree. Lutyens gave us a garden city, But since architects are going to decide what the city is going to look like, if we can add as much vertical greenery to it, then the vertical greenery will add color, it will add some kind of seasonal changes, and it will soften the whole impact. So the message from me to the industry is, help us make sustainable facades.
I think we are looking for the future is, like we said before also, the glass panel should be solar, so that the energy used for the tower is being generated from the facade and being used. And another thing which we are seeing now and is coming up also is the green wall and that is very good. The green is suitable for eyes and all that, and the carbon footprint is also taken care of, and the pollution is also taken care of with that.
Probably, I'll just add to it the component that we probably can use that vegetation not just for the aesthetics, but probably with urban farming, integrating hydroponics in facades, where we not only see greenery, but we also grow something for it. We all know how, the scarcity of the food and the challenges we are facing, in urban areas. So if that can also be solved with that, wonderful.
So the selection of the product or the facade, I would say, is basically depending upon the need of the city. The need of the city, how the things are actually propelling into it. We can go with stone cladding. Stone cladding is a natural product, but getting into a stone cladding with such volumes, I don't think so environmentally it would be better. At one point of time, you would feel the scarcity of the stones. We do face this thing.
And moreover, I think dead load on the building is also increasing with
Correct.
usage of granite or heavier thick stones.
The cost is huge, and it is eventually you are, from my point of view, are taking something from the environment that is not good. It will come to a point where you will face the scarcity of such things. The selections of the product should depend on the energy saving techniques. Like every building can have different elevations. we talk about regarding the sun control path, selections of glass, selections of the product should also belong to that kind of nature. Putting greenery is surely onto the vertical facade. We see metro lines today. The vertical column cladding has already begun in the city. So facades do have, but it should be a composer of the product related to the energy conservation chart that needs to be followed and procured. Well-known people are over here are all aware of the fact. But that needs to be detailed done, and it should be a consolidated decision between the architect, the consultant, as well as the executor, the contractor, whether it's possible or not. Because eventually we have to make something survive for next 50 to 100 years long. So that care needs to be taken across.
What in your mind, safety? Safety compared to the usage of the material, safety by using of the against fire, against smoke. So, what are your views about that, sir?
I think first of all, when we talk of safety, I think the important thing is that I think we need to have I think there are certain provisions within our building codes now which talk about safety but I still see a lot of references in those codes to some of the international codes, the Australian code or the European codes. So I think safety starts with actually having a very comprehensive set of codes framed for our market, and for the problems that we face in our country. So I think that's something that people sort of involved with this industry should really help generate. We should have a set of codes which really defines what are the testing requirements that need to be done on a facade. And I think once we have a comprehensive set of codes available, that itself will enhance the safety standards within our facade industry a lot.
In the last 2 or 3 years, I have found that the fire safety issue has become very, very critical in center stage. So, and there are a lot of confusions. For instance, you have a fire refuge terrace, and you have an office which is overlooking a fire refuge terrace. Now we are informed that that glass also has to be fire rated because of the people there. So the implications of fire resistant facade are huge in terms of the costs it impinges. And what developers often force us to do is wherever they are required next to refuge terraces to build, to use fire rated glass, we're told, okay, let's now reduce this area and put solid
Do
wall.
a block work here.
Yeah. So that is one small sort of area. But I'd like to speak about 3 different aspects of safety insofar as facades are concerned. One is safety during construction. In the context of high-rise buildings, even mid-rise buildings, I find the maximum casualties are during facade work. Although it is the most organized industry, still.
Thank you very much for that, sir. That's a
Yeah.
compliment to us.
Yeah. So it is clearly facade and air conditioning, I think, are 2 agencies which give us good quality shop drawings. AC guys still use MEP drawings as shop drawings. Facade guys are one notch better. So yeah. So I think we need to work at safety standards for during construction. That's one important thing. Second thing is safety standards for people who clean, because that is another area which is currently neglected. And we say, अच्छा ऐसे हो जाएगा, वैसे हो जाएगा, without worrying about how safe that person who's actually going to clean is going to be. And there's no data available. The third thing is safety for users. Now, if you look at high-rise residential, India loses close to 1,200 people because of balcony railing related deaths every year. And still we find in high-rises, we have not gone beyond 1100 mm as a railing. In fact, residential high-rise facades are perhaps the most static. They haven't changed in the last 30, 40 years. So that is one area where we really need to come up with safety standards and raise the railing height or whatever that needs to be done in that context. And one more thing that I would like to mention is, as the height of the building increases, the weight of the material that is being used to fix, as well as the fixing arrangement. While for glass we do actually get the drawings vetted from IIT, etc. For stone, I find it's very difficult to get anybody to really vet the design. हम किसी तरह करा लाते हैं, but actually कोई knowledgeable agency है नहीं जो हमारे safety standards को समझ के दे. So I think the industry really needs to rise to that in terms of structural safety audits.
Safety, fire safety especially, the safety word itself comes with a very basic word. If we go beyond basic, we leave the basic, we fall into the trap. So the safety while doing the execution of the building is sealing all the floor properly. So even if the fire is there in one floor, it doesn't, the air doesn't or the gases doesn't go to the other places. It should be sealed properly. The basic we forget, we do not execute, the entire building is in danger. While executing the facade, there are members now, the ACP has come, that fire incident ACP has come, because one of the, there was a news that in US, the building was, the facade was in fire, so the entire building was trapped in that. So they have come with a solution of fire resistant ACP cladding. So we have to keep the very basic thing, we have to check the things and execute them properly. I think the safety factor can be taken care.
Well, I will just use an example, a very famous one, the London building fire, which happened 2-3 years back, where we saw that the cladding system being used in the building, insulation primarily, helped propagation of fire from the lower stories to the above, and which wasn't really good. I think even in India, not sure, probably, I have much more experienced people, whether the codes do address how the cladding systems and drywall cladding and curtain glazing are still addressed, but drywall cladding, are they addressed in fire?
When we don't have any standard, we are always looking forward for ASTM, AMA standards.
Yeah.
So
what really will happen in case of fire with we talked about, pushing the dry cladding system in this talk today. But what will happen in case of fire? We generally go with MS and aluminium sections being used, which soften very quickly in case of fire, in case of, quick heat. Those materials will start falling, and that's the time when the fire team would be trying to access the building from the outside. So it may become a hazard. So I just think probably there are more things to still look forward to progress in that direction. Think more about it.
Thank you very much, Sandeep.
This question goes far and wide for us, right from the designing to the execution to the methodology adopted. We have seen the questions coming across for a fire. We are talking about fire. Fire rated glass use कर लेते हैं, aluminium fire rated चाहिए. Fire rated का paint मिलेगा कि नहीं मिलेगा? Wow. Possible, not possible. नहीं sir, MS का frame लगेगा. MS में वो profile नहीं लगेगी, elevation change हो जाएगा. There are everything in and out that goes across right from the design stage to the execution to the product selection. Basically, what is required and what not is required is a question, and that needs to be defined right from the design stage to the execution stage. If it is defined into the proper hierarchy level, I hope that we will not face any kind of hindrances out there. An assumption turning into a reality is a question where we really need to have a cross-check across. Sometimes the facades are like this, we go to 150 meters high, 172 meters high. The installation procedures are quite difficult. Lifting it by the means of a wincher, concern. Riding it over there on a cradle is a good concern. These are all installation technology that comes at a contractor in. But with regard to installations also, if we talk with regard to design, the consultants are over here. A fire-rated product, we need to go with the next product of a fire-rated of a glass wool or a rock wool, applying a particular fire-retardant paint. Which are the junctions where it will close? What are the flow path of the fire? It's all an anticipation thing. A BOQ written and mere anticipation. ऐसे कर दो, ऐसे देख लो, ऐसे कर दो. So a lot many things needs to be handled across. I hope it has hardly been 5 years where the people have started understanding that the need of facade consultant is there, the need of the proper contractors who have the practice of doing the shop drawings and the design calculation and getting it vetted from the recognized places are there. That's so.
Not you have mentioned facade consultants, but not only facade consultants are required. Knowledgeable facade consultants are required.
Truly.
So as to get the project executed in the right way. We have facade consultants, sorry, not for you, I'm saying, facade consultants who give a fee which is lesser than 10% of a good quality consultant, and the client says, okay, I'm going ahead with them. But then comes the technical parameters which are not met. And at the time of failure, we are looking forward for a contractor like Sandeep Chaudhary. You have not done the work properly. He will come up with a drawing showing, sir, this was the drawing given to me, approved by the consultant. So I am sorry on that, so I can't do it. So that's why I'm saying quality facade consultants are required in the industry to enhance the performance and give better deliverable projects for the facade. I think,
Sir, I would like to add on to over here. Basically, it's a consultant and a contractor and a client. Client put up the consultant in order to have the proper vetting process. Sometimes it's not like that. Surely, when a contractor addresses it to a point, he tries to address it to the favor of the project. It's not always the other side of this thing. We do have to come up with the contractual things that you said, drawings. We are all aware what has been the part of the journey. But this needs to be mitigated through a proper thing. For example, sir, today, in fact, the government raises. I just came across a discussion I would like to add on to it. In a particular project, there people say, very renowned contractor, L&T people said that we have bidded onto a very low cost. They said that it's a 2,000 crore project where we have got only 3 people on the board. How do you see that you are less quoted? If in a country of 150 crore people, you say that we have selected only 3, and then you say that we have quoted low, it is a mere problem. The selections of the contractor also needs to be done at a very primary stages, that an apple-to-apple comparison.
Aptly said, right.
If it is done, we would surely not have this kind of problems.
I think with that we end our discussion, but primarily the things coming out of the discussion is that yes, there is a scope for improvement in facade, there is a scope for improvement on the facade materials being used, and the futuristic facade is here to stay. With the people like the panel we have today, if they insist, we will have better and futuristic facade, and definitely we can do it. Any questions from the audience with the panel?
What is your dream project?
My dream project.
If you are free to construct anything anywhere, what would be a dream project?
I think what they want to know as a builder, you are representing the building industry.
Basically, right now what I am doing is I am building in Gurgaon the highest tower, 200-meter tower, the commercial tower. And we have made it in an innovative way. We have done the tower with a composite structure, not only RCC, it is steel composite member. The structure steel is there, the reinforcement steel is there, and the concrete is there. So building together we're taking and taking it to 200 meter high. So the building is there. You can see in Gurgaon. It will function in next 3 months. And there also we are looking for the facade. So facade we are using there is unitized panel. So for quick fixing, and they are meeting the Griha norms also. So the dream project is to have a project which a few has done in recent times, because the life is a journey. We have to learn, and we have to learn whatever comes in our way. So right now what we have learned, we have executed.
So I invite Mr. Sandeep as the CEO of Stonelam Surface. In his career, he is spanning over 26 years. He has managed lifestyle business of leading brands such as D-Decor and Raymond. He was instrumental in setting up award-winning retail concept such as made to measure by Raymond and making the decor a household brand name in the Indian market. So please welcome Mr. Sandeep.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Pal, and thank you all the panelists for such an insightful session. It was indeed a treat. I'm really happy that many of the points that the panel raised, it looks like Stonelam as a company is all geared to take advantage of the opportunity that's getting presented to us. Stonelam, just to tell you in brief about the company, it's the exclusive partner for Laminam of Italy for India. We deal in thin porcelain slabs, large slabs of 3 meter by 1 meter and 3 mm thickness, catering to the facade industry. And these products probably have all the ingredients in them that this panel spoke about in terms of being a natural material, being a sustainable material, following the dry cladding process, passing the highest standards of safety and being very durable. So I think many of the product attributes gel well with the desirable aspects that the panel spoke about as far as facades are concerned. We are exhibiting our products here in Aztec, and I would request all of you to visit our stall and see for yourself the kind of range that we offer. I would like to thank Mr. Pal again for moderating this session. Thank you to all the panelists for agreeing to be a part of this panel. Thank you, Aztec, for organizing this, and all the audience for being present for this occasion. Thank you.
Now Stonelam wants to give away our respected leaders the mementos. Thank you all once again for being with us today. Stonelam and Aztec have been very, very pleased to have all of you eminent members of stage. And thank you all to all the audience who've been very kind and have been here very patiently. Thank you all very much.